Hi everyone, so I wanted to show you, I took off my triple protection bracelets, my tiger eye. So a lot of the stones that I learned about, I learned at home in Zimbabwe, like the serpentine stone, that's good for balancing your body. We had that serpentine stone in our veranda. And I use the different gemstones. They do use them anyway in our medicines, in our watches, and they affect the body differently. So I'm using right now the terahertz jasper bracelet and the hematite bracelet. So these two are good for balancing energy in your body and for rebalancing, reconnecting. It's also good for protection, strength, and willpower. And I keep myself busy. I keep myself busy the whole day. I do creative things because otherwise you'll go crazy if you're unemployed. You could sit in front of the TV the whole day, but I don't do that. And I went out for my walk. It was snowing earlier, so I don't know when we're going to have our spring, but I went out for a nice walk and I enjoyed it. And I'm also wearing this albony, like the shell. The shell is good for anything where there's conflict. And right now our world has a lot of conflict in it, so I'm wearing that. The other stone that I learned about in Zimbabwe is the amethyst stone. So the amethyst stone is good for keeping away any kind of snakes, reptiles, rodents. It's good for healing. It's good for protection. So when I choose my jewelry, what I'm going to wear, I always think of what is the quality that I want. And in our home, at home in Zimbabwe, we did have these, they little trees, and I have some of them here as well. They made up by the African people, where they cut the gemstones and they put them on the wire and then they mold it together. So it's like these ones here that I have on my table. They're like that. So my grandmother taught us about that. And also the local African people, they have a lot of knowledge that they have about the earth, about the gemstones, about which stones are good for what in the body. And I kept all the good memories of Africa. My mom reminded me of all the bad things when she came, but I kept all the good memories. And that's why even with my music that I post, when I'm sitting and applying for jobs, I put on all that old music that I grew up with because it makes me feel better. All the George Benson, I heard it through the grapevine, all this Marvin Gaye, all that old music. I like it. So that's what I like to do. I actually had somebody contact me to ask me to speak about surviving the war in Rhodesia, and I was like, I don't want to do that. So because I chose to remember all the good things. There were a lot of bad things. We saw, as children, we were exposed to a lot of violence, the bombings, the car bombings in Harare, the Mikos Hotel was bombed. There were a lot of horrible things. We saw people attacking dogs. But if you keep bringing up all those things and remembering them, it becomes too upsetting. So I chose to remember all the good things, all the fun things we did together with my cousins, the dances we went to around Lent. Like this time, we would have the Monday, Thursday supper. We'd cook the soup together. And initially, we didn't have a hall. We had a hall, but they built it, they extended it, so all the ladies would get together and the guys, and we would cook together. And I chose to hold on to all those good memories. So when I'm going through very, very hard times like this, where I'm unemployed and doesn't look like there's any end in sight, I put on all that old music that I grew up with. I remember all the good things about Zimbabwe. And I think people think it's easy when you come here. They think the grass is greener on the other side, but it isn't. I spent most of my life unemployed in Canada. I spent most of it either studying or upgrading my skills, forking out money, hoping that a good opportunity would open up for me. And it never did. And there's a lot of discrimination here. Like even my aunt told me, have I thought about having a breast reduction done? My aunt in Connecticut. And I said to her, no, I'm not going to do that. And she's like, well, it helps some women if they bigger breasted. And I'm not that big breasted. You get women with breasts that go right up to like size K. But you get all kinds of discrimination here, whether it's your accent or how you dress, how you talk, how you walk. There's all kinds of things. And many of us are more qualified than the people that are sitting in management roles. So they don't use your education to say like your education is an asset and we would love to have you on the team. They're like, oh, your education, you got your master's and I've only got my bachelor's. I feel like telling them, why don't you go and get your master's? You have all the options, you have all the opportunities, you grew up in a first world country, so why are you so horrible to me? I don't say that, I just look at them. But anyway, it's good to remember all the things we learn from our grandparents, and you know, they help us. Like even with my embroidery, my grandmother taught me how to embroider. And like painting, all these things, we did them at home. And you get the paint by numbers now, so it's easy to get it and to work on things like that. And that's what helps you to stay sane in this insane world. At least that's what helps me. And we had fun times. We had a lot of good times in Zimbabwe, a lot of house parties, a lot of things that we did together, which we enjoyed. And I miss those days, and it's not gone. Those things are still there. They're still available. We have to know who to contact, where to go, what to do. A lot of the schools, especially the private schools, they have nice events. They have, the schools are very well maintained in Zimbabwe. And I connected with quite a few people on LinkedIn, the women that are organizing and helping women and girls initiatives. And it's good to see. I like to see it. But yeah, it's not a bed of roses here. It's very, very hard actually. And especially when you come here, you have to retrain, you have to get the Canadian qualifications, you have to keep upgrading your skills, you have to keep applying for jobs. And then you get that one job and you think, okay, I'll take it. It doesn't matter if it's minimum wage, because I'll be able to go up in the organization. But that doesn't happen. When the layoffs come, no matter how good you are, no matter what a good person you are, they lay you off. And there's no security net in place. So it's very, very hard, because sometimes, like with the banks and things like that, if you've been there as a permanent employee, they give you a severance. But with my company and the companies I've worked on contract, they don't give you anything. So that's why I'm saying it's very hard. And that's why I'm saying if I could, I would go back to Zimbabwe, because I'm over 50 now. I don't have any property. I don't have any savings. And I've been working on minimum wage since I came here. They just pay me the minimum, whatever they can pay. And there's no benefits, there's no pension. So it's the same like living in Zimbabwe. There's no difference. The only thing is, so far, they've managed to keep the electricity on. They put some social supports in place. If I got back to Zimbabwe, I would go back and help them to implement all these social supports that they have here, because it's very hard. It's a very, very hard life. And sometimes you travel like 3 hours a day. You have to take the bus, and then, or 2 or 3 buses and the subway, and you can go like 2 hours commute each way. So it's not as easy as people think it is. And I'm fortunate that I had family to help me, but I wanted to go back to Zimbabwe a long, long time ago, or go back to England, because I'm like, you know what? No matter what you do, no matter how much you study, no matter how good you are, you don't get the breaks. And it becomes very disheartening, because you think, when is this going to end? And how is it going to end? And then they say, oh, apply for jobs in America. Well, you apply for jobs in America, but you don't get those breaks either. So, at least for me, that's my experience of Canada. And it hasn't been a good one. Everything that I have, especially after losing my place, I paid off my debt, I paid off my credit cards. I thought, okay, everything will be okay now. I got my job at Teleperformance, and I'm back to square one. So it's very disheartening. That's why I use my crystals, I do my embroidery, I do creative things to keep me in a peaceful state, because I've already got high blood pressure. Now I have to monitor it for a week and then go back to my doctor. I'm like, you know what? All these material things, everybody says, oh, go to Canada, go to Canada, go to England, go to New Zealand, don't stay here in Africa, there's no future here. Well, actually, the future is in Africa. The African countries are getting the birth rates, the church is strong in Africa, and things are changing. They've got the Organization of African Unity has come together now. The African Development Bank is there. They have women leading their countries, like elected women at the top level. We've never had a woman leading our country here in Canada. Neither has America. Might get like vice president or the second level, but never to lead the country. So things are more advanced there compared to here. Here it's always an issue. Oh, you put highlights in your hair. Oh, we don't like highlights in the bank. It's like, give me a break. You know, it's like, it's too much. Anyway, that's what I just wanted to share, what I'm using and what I'm doing. And I put my diamond ring back on. I don't wear it all the time, but diamond is protection against Satan. So I'm wearing that also. And my sapphire ring. Sapphire ring helps you to think clearly. And all these things, you know, like some of it is gifts from family, some of it I bought. But it's like, it's just things. It's just things. That's what it is. It's not like, it doesn't bring you happiness in life. I was more happy waking up and seeing the Zimbabwe sunrise and listening to the Victoria Falls and going out on a simple drive to the river compared to here. Because it can get very lonely here and it can get very isolating, especially like with me, I've been working at home since COVID hit, since 2019. And if you don't have money to go out, how are you supposed to make friends, meet people? It just becomes a drag, to be honest with you. You can only read so much, cook so much, bake so much. For us Zimbabweans, we like to work, including the women. And if we're not working and contributing to society, for us it's meaningless. We like to work and earn our own income. And it's a drag when you're just staying at home and you can't get any work. And you're applying and applying and applying and you're not getting any work. I'm not 16 years old. I didn't just graduate from university. And people are telling me, oh, apply for these entry-level roles. At what point do you actually say, you know what, you're worthy and you're capable, apply for management roles? It gets very disheartening when people are constantly telling you, oh, you can't hold a job. We don't think you'll be able to manage. No, we don't think this is good. We don't think you should study. We don't think you should do anything. So what? Just sit at home and be a lump then. Don't bother to do anything. Don't learn. Don't educate yourself. Don't look for opportunities. Don't look for new experiences. Because that's the message you're sending me. It gets very, very annoying. I don't know what's wrong with people here. I really don't. Because they have every opportunity to go and study, to do things, to make something of their life. But you go to the interview at BMO and the stupid people tell you, oh, Well, you got your master's and I only got my undergrad. It's like, woman, wake up. That's how they are here. What do you say to them? Oh, I'll be an asset on your team. It's really sickening. And it makes you sick. Even what I went through at Teleperformance, it wasn't necessary. I used to tell them, it's too much. 3 chats at a time, back-to-back calls, 30 seconds between the calls. Or the client wants it that way. So now all of us are getting sick. So that's what the client wants. It's ridiculous what they do to people here. And it's the cruelty with which you get treated. It's the cruelty. I couldn't get my head around it. It's either you don't have Canadian experience, or you're overqualified, or you have too much experience. It goes on and on and on. And really and truly, it's just discrimination. That's all it is. So I do everything I can to keep myself sane. And I take pride in my appearance. I dress well. They might not like it, but I like how I dress. And at some point you want to tell them, you know what, get stuffed. Really and truly you do.